Hi, I'm Naomi Eklund here with Jen Dahlberg, and we are Infinite Yes. I was talking with a client today, and as some of you know, one of the things that we do at Infinite Yes is team trainings. I've been working with teams, team building, team management, helping managers for a couple decades, and Jen actually was a manager with very loyal, successful staff, and she's also a natural coach, and so she's been doing this work for years as well too. So that was actually one of the things I was really excited about having Jen come on board was her really practical experience with people, sort of her natural coaching, all of those things that are natural for her, and also that really hands-on, being handed the management mantle, being without any training other than your natural ability.
In everything I've ever done.
And yet proving yourself, right?
Yeah, always successful.
So the man that I was talking to this morning, he's somebody I've worked with his team off and on over the years, and I've worked with teams in his company off and on during the years. And he was talking about something I'm working with him personally on, which is this idea. And on the because this is side note, we work with the Enneagram because the Enneagram helps us understand each other's personalities. And so this man is an 8. You often find 8s in management and leadership because we gravitate toward it. And he said to me, you've been teaching me to know that I'm worth it because I'm a human being and I'm worth it, not because of what I do. And at first, that's counterintuitive to what we teach our managers, which is we teach our managers to directly correlate people's worth with the amount of work and the kind of work that they do so that you have more control over them. But what that does is that dehumanizes your staff. And then they quiet quit or not so quiet quit, or then their triggers come up and their dysfunction comes up, and then you are just one more person in their life, treating them like they don't matter. And so when this man and I were talking, it was really profound for him to start working to recognize that he's valuable because he's alive and he exists. And his people matter because they're human beings and they matter. Now, the work they do matters because they choose to make it work, but they matter because they're human beings. He said out of the reviews he had done that week, he had like 4 or 5 people start crying and say, you have no idea. That is exactly, like, I needed to hear that.
Yeah. Everyone
Jen,
does.
Pardon?
Everyone does.
Yes. So I wanted to ask you, since you have, you work for me at Infinite Yes. And so we have a very strict point of view that the human being comes first.
Yes.
And I think you said that that's probably about the first place where you've worked, where that happens. And you have told me that you're happier working here.
Oh, yeah. So, it's nice to be appreciated and valued and cared for without it being about what I put out just because I exist.
Well,
which makes me want to do more work.
Not a plan, but it works out that way.
It's how it works for everybody, isn't it? If you feel valued and appreciated, you do more.
Well, and you also know that you have ownership of your work, and I know that I couldn't do this job without you. I could not be expanding Infinite Yes without you. You are a critical part of the infrastructure, and eventually, moving toward having ownership in the company as well as in your work. What I wanted to also ask you, in addition to generally your thoughts, your experience, because I know that one of the things that you did was you took people who worked for you and treated them humanely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if people feel like you care, they'll go the extra mile. You can't fake it, by the way. You actually do have to care. But you can learn how to care. And and it doesn't, and don't misunderstand, it doesn't mean you have to be best friends with your people. It means you actually have to care about what are their stressors, what's going on in their lives. If you give people time to talk about what's going on outside the door of your business, then they actually are more focused at your business, because now they've processed a little bit and they can get back to work, and they might enjoy the distraction of the work, or whatever. There's all these side effects that come because you cared. And when you first start out the conversation of building up the esteem of someone, you might think, well, that's counterproductive, we're not going to get anything done today, we're worrying about this thing and it's getting in the way of getting this task done. And it's like, no, because people work better, more accurately, they put more passion, more creativity, so much more goes into it when they feel like they matter, like they feel like their work is valuable. If you have somebody who's working an entry level job, they're not an entry level person. The work itself is entry level, but without that work, your company falls apart. You can't, the company is not going to succeed on the back of the CEO. They can't do everything. Somebody has to put the numbers in this column to that column, and that does not make that person less valuable. They're just as valuable, if not more, because the bottom of the pyramid, it's holding the whole structure. So, much was done about the essential workers during the pandemic, and people started sort of maligning it later. Like at first it was so important, these people that are still working so that we can all buy milk, you know. Yeah, that is valuable. And we should be saying thank you, and how many people stayed in those jobs and kept going and showed up every day despite the fear around them, because they did feel valued for a change. So it is an important thing to do. It's important to understand the people that work for you. So before I started doing this work with you of going into companies and doing Enneagram assessments, I did it at my own office because you introduced me to it, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And understanding somebody's drive and their motivation and how they feel rewarded, all of these things make it so much easier to connect and get loyalty. You don't have turnover in a company when people are happy. Turnover costs a lot of money.
Well, and that's one of the places where I think too many companies are short-sighted.
Mm-hmm.
Too many companies look at this idea of output is the only measure. Now, I know a lot of companies don't, and I know a lot of companies are doing better.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to remember, a lot of the managers, and let's be frank, a lot of the managers who are Gen Xers, mm-hmm, or boomers who are looking at the millennials and the Gen Z people with a lot of criticism. I was meeting with a person from the chamber the other day, and you hear the same thing there that mm-hmm, you hear when we were being trained, right, which is, these kids don't know how to work. These people aren't doing what I need them to do. This dehumanizing factor. Mm-hmm. And I think perhaps for people, let's just say over 45, mm-hmm, it might be slightly less difficult than for people who were brought up with more computers.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's face it, computers dehumanize.
Yeah.
You know, I was reading, somebody's trying to sell me this AI program for writing, and I'm like reading this thing that the AI wrote, and it's not human.
Mm-mm.
There's no warmth, there's no soul, there's no richness, there's no breath in it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I have been dealing with a lot of my phone carrier switching over, and this person, and these small things that when you used to be able to pick up the phone and call a person
Mm-hmm.
and say, would you please switch my service from this to that? Could you please make sure these are done? And that person had investment in the job. They had developed competency.
Mm-hmm.
They felt like they mattered in that job. Customer service was a delight.
Yeah.
And now customer service is a nightmare across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Because only a handful of people are invested in actually serving the customer. Most people, now I have compassion. I called a lady for help with my phone carrier. Her dog was in the background. Her husband was hollering at the dog, and the kid was crying for something.
Yeah.
And English was not her first language.
Mm-hmm.
And she was trying to help me to resolve a semi-complex problem on my phone bill.
Mm-hmm.
This is an incredibly dehumanizing situation.
Yeah.
And so if you guys heard my phone, that's my ringtone. I happen to like Groot, in case you haven't noticed. Groot makes me happy. He makes me feel more human.
That's funny.
He really does, because Groot is like the best person I know.
Yeah.
You know, he's loyal to his friends. He's tough. He understands the universal commitment.
Protective.
He's protective. He's the guy you want to have your back. I mean, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea of, can we understand that if we treat ourselves like a human being and we treat our staff like a human being, we then will be able to have human beings who feel loyal, who feel engaged, who want to be there, who are interested.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so complaining because somebody's on their phone, well, if you have a department and somebody's on their phone, how are you creating a more human engagement in that department?
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you saying to a person, I value you, your existence matters? I promise you that if you say to somebody your existence matters and I value you, they're going to stop paying attention to their phone for a little while.
Yeah.
Because people are paying attention to the phone because they're looking for dopamine, because they're looking for a hit,
Mm-hmm.
because there is an addictive quality, because it makes them feel better.
Yeah.
And the fact that people are addicted to phones talks about just how miserable and lacking most people are in human connection.
Yeah.
Now, you brought up a very good point. No, this is not, this is not your living room, and everybody's not supposed to sit around in their PJs and eat pizza.
Right.
Unless that's the work environment that you want. And sometimes that is the right work environment. You know,
Yeah.
I understand people who do coding need lots of pizza and soda.
Yeah.
And that's completely okay if that is the work environment.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that too many people
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like they're even human anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why we joke, but it's not a joke, when people say, oh, the world is full of zombies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then we go through COVID and we go through the pandemic and we go through the recession, and we go through all these fears and tribulations that everybody's going through, all of those things wear people away.
Yeah.
And if people are worn out all the time,
Mm-hmm.
how do you expect them to come to work and have anything else to give you? Most people are at work for a paycheck.
Yeah.
And most people are not happy with the paychecks they're getting because groceries are 5 times what they were 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guarantee you, very few people are making 5 times what they were making 3 years ago.
Exactly.
And if you're watching the news at all, the world, there's a lot of weird stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So you as a manager,
Mm-hmm.
you as a leader, get to be human.
Yes.
You get to look at the people that work with you and for you and say, I care about the fact that you exist. And I am happy that you're here.
Mm-hmm.
We can figure out your work because honestly, most of the work that most people do is something that they can be trained to do. And honestly, most people, if they give a little bit of concern or care about the company,
Mm-hmm.
they will do the work.
Yeah.
People don't come to work because they want to fill out widgets or do spreadsheets or analyze. I mean, I sound really old when I say this, but half of the jobs out there just sound like they're made up. Honestly, like so much of the work that people are paid to do just sound like it's made up stuff. Most people don't even know why they're doing or feel really engaged in what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, there are handfuls, there are lucky people who they're in their career, they're doing what they want to do, they've got what they love on their plate. That
Mm-hmm.
is not the majority of people, and that is not the majority of managers. And most managers would, and leaders in a company, if they could sit down with their people and say, this is a place where human beings come to gather toward a task.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the hearts get involved.
Yeah.
I was just watching some reruns of Game of Thrones, and they were talking about bringing the troops on.
Mm.
And there's this one scene where Peter Dinklage, who is the right hand of Daenerys, is talking about they are not going to bring this particular group of soldiers around the city because it would prove that they don't care about the people in the city.
Mm.
They're going to have them go do another task. The reason I say that is because if you bring another thing that proves to these people that they don't matter, you are not going to get engagement. You are not going to get loyalty.
Mm-mm. Or production. Yeah.
How long, I mean, your people stayed with you for a long time.
Yeah.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it wasn't for the pay because we weren't being able to pay them as much as they were worth. It was absolutely because we became a tight tribe. It was because they were cared for. And, I've maintained relationships with all of them leaving. I mean, they were extraordinarily sad when I left because they were afraid it wouldn't continue. And when you feel valued, you'll show up every day, even if it's not the best financial situation for you or the best, task situation for you. But if you have somebody who comes along and it's like, yeah, this is the worst. Nobody likes cleaning toilets, but we can laugh about it, and we can, it's amazing how far it goes when somebody recognizes your efforts. I always come back to my kids had a kindergarten teacher who every year before school started, she would have me take little tiny river rocks and spray paint them shiny gold. And she'd have this huge Home Depot bucket full of painted gold rocks. And every time any of the kids did anything that was good, quote unquote, she would give them a rock that and a little piece of paper that said good as gold. And I mean, my sons had this huge pile of painted rocks that they just thought were just the most valuable thing ever because it showcased that she saw them. She caught them being good. You know, they adored her. Absolutely adored. They learned to read for her. You know, anything she asked, they would do because they were so excited by her praise. And, you know, understanding your staff, understanding your team, understanding what will motivate individuals. You know, certain individuals are going to be better at things than others. It doesn't mean, you know, like don't pit people against each other, but like move people to where their talents and their interests are, and then watch them shine and praise them for it, you know. um it's amazing how you can, like, if you just pay attention as a manager, you just pay attention to people and listen to what they do on the weekend. You'd be shocked at how you can give them some tasks at work that you didn't think you could, because they actually have an interest in that. They have some creativity around it.
And one of the things that I see with a lot of managers and leaders in different companies and organizations I go into is everybody's panicked. There's like so much panic in the management level of, you know, like, oh, these kids, they don't want to work. Nobody wants to work. That's just not true.
It's not.
There are a lot of people who want to work. They just want what they're doing to matter.
Well, and I think that's what us in the older generation, what we should be learning from this younger generation is that people matter. And this younger generation is saying that bank accounts and flashy cars and big old mansions are not nearly as important as human connections, human experiences, feeling valuable, feeling connected. And, you know, sure, everybody wants to be paid well and everybody wants to have a balanced work, you know, personal relationship kind of thing going. But, you know, more than anything, what people want is to feel like they matter, their contribution matters, that if they don't show up to work, somebody's going to notice and it's going to impact the effectiveness of that day. You know, they want to feel like they are part of something.
Well, and when you talk about, you know, the trappings that our generation, the trappings of success, you know, it's like you didn't go to work to be liked. You went to work to get a car, to get money, or to have a savings account, or whatever you went to work for. Well, you know, to be quite honest with what's happened in the economy, so many young people don't even think of those things as possibilities.
No, no.
You know, I know, you know, people from fairly affluent families in their 20s who they don't see that they're going to be able to own a car, or I'm sorry, own a house. You know, so this is part of, you know, our generation taking responsibility for what we created.
Yes.
You know, and taking a look at, like, there's a lot of good about thinking in terms of they are part of a team. You know, and everybody likes to go off on this participation trophy thing. You know me, I am a person who likes ambition, and I'm a very ambitious person. But you know, we get caught on sound bites.
Yeah.
You know, we get caught on sound bites and we forget, like, what is essential and what is really going to solve the problem. What is going to solve the problem of getting people engaged and invested in working for you is them knowing that it matters that they exist. A lot of these kids came up on teams. Excuse me. They came up on teams, or they came up in environments where there was a greater expectation of human interaction and connection. You know, there wasn't some of the lines around race or gender, some of these things that used to really exclude people. So if we take a look at some of the really great stuff that's coming out of these younger people, it is that they want human beings treated better.
Mhm.
They want more human connection. Strangely, even though this is a group brought up on technology, they are more interested in camping.
Yeah.
They are more interested in being outside. They are more interested in the environment.
Mhm.
They are more interested in a holistic world than going and being, a cog in a wheel.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we have to understand that the change in the point of view is actually a good thing.
Mhm. I
Like
think
it is a good thing for human beings to not be treated like a cog in a wheel, because when I was going through my divorce many years ago, and I couldn't actually lean into like coaching anyone, because I had a little kid and all of that. So I said, what can I do where I can still spend all this time with my kid, because he was only 3 or 4. And I took a job in elder care.
Mhm.
I never heard one of those people say, gosh, I wish I had been more of a cog in the wheel.
Yeah.
Never heard one person say, I wish I'd watched more TV. I never heard one person say any of those things. There were a couple of people who I heard them say, I wish I had been nicer to my kids.
Mm.
I wish I had gone on vacation. I wish I had. It was always, I wish I had spent more time with my kids, my family, my husband. I wish I had lived my dreams, gone and raised dogs.
Mhm.
There's all of these human things that have gotten subjugated to being the cog in the wheel.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I think that there's rightfully a celebration to say these young people, they do get to teach us more about the world.
Mhm.
Just because our previous generations had a system
Mhm.
that
That worked during their generation.
it didn't, because
It worked according to what they knew.
it was what they did,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of trauma and there's a lot of problems
Yeah.
that come out of that.
But this younger generation is saying, let's flip the script. Let's
Well,
get back to being human. Let's
and
get
they
back
have,
to caring.
yeah, and they have access to information beyond our comprehension.
Mhm.
So to the point, the Enneagram
Yeah.
is a fabulous tool for team building.
Yes.
It helps you understand yourself and the people around you. It can give you a shorthand, or you can get as deep as you want in it.
Mhm.
We have a program that is based on mindset that you put together. I think it's called Personal Positivity.
Yeah, so it's based on my Managing Your Mindset online course. Mhm.
It's fabulous, because if your employer said to you, here is this tool that will help you be happier as a person,
Mhm.
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
If your manager, if the leader of your company is sitting around saying, who are we, what are our personalities, we have more understanding of that,
Mhm.
that shows that they care. Now, a lot of people use other personality type systems, and many of them have good qualities. I like the Enneagram because it's really, really easy.
Mhm.
You can go to 9 basic types
Mhm.
and go from there.
Yeah.
And within a few hours, everybody can have a basic understanding of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everybody can have a basic shorthand of it.
Mhm.
So for a manager to say, I care about you as a human being,
Mhm.
you matter regardless of your work,
Mhm.
makes people cry. That's how starved people are
Yeah.
for humanity,
Mhm.
which is why one of our taglines is humanizing relationships.
Yeah.
The more we humanize each other, ourselves, the happier everybody is, the more return on investment, loyalty, all of those things.
Mhm.
So bottom line, ask questions, subscribe, like, do all of those things that we need to do in this social media world.
Mhm.
And also get in touch with us about how we can help you to be more human in managing your team.
Yeah.
Get in touch with us so that we can give you some of these skills, because one of the biggest challenges out there is that so many managers are promoted because they're good technicians at their job, but they don't have the human element.
Mhm. It's a completely different thing to go from making widgets to getting people to make widgets.
Or even from being a really great manager of a
Yeah.
spreadsheet or project
Yeah.
software to how do I help other people feel good about showing up and giving us their life.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're trading their life for their paycheck. And if you make them enjoy it, you're going to get something out of it. You know?
And it's like, it's one of those interesting things where it's just the right thing to do.
It is.
And because it's the right thing to do, you get a lot of rewards from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I look forward to hearing from all the managers out there. One of the things that we do at Infinite Yes is we make a point of making it affordable.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there that are getting as much as they possibly can per hour. That's great, but it also is not the thing that is going to make it accessible to everybody's life.
Yeah.
I would love to have 100 small companies paying me less than have one huge company paying me a big check and only getting limited access to a small amount.
Yeah. We want to impact the world and have more people live life happy.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So back to Napoleon Hill, a small amount of money on many people.
Mhm.
For me, that's still what resonates because it's the most human.
It is. It is. And, people who are happy, feeling like they matter, they make the world better. They
And they
make
do.
they make everything about the world better.
Jen, thank you so much for sharing this time with me. I always enjoy having the opportunity to talk with you.
Yeah.
And again, I strongly encourage everybody out there who has a family, a small business, a large business, organization, get in touch with us. Get in touch with us. We will create an affordable package to help you to use these tools to create a more humane environment.
Yes.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.